Hey friends! If you're excited to watch the 2025 super hit F1, the movie in full HD, then don't forget to hit that like button right now. And if you're visiting our channel for the very first time, make sure to subscribe so you never miss out on any of our latest updates. In today's video, we're talking all about F1, the movie, one of the most talked about releases of the year. We'll tell you exactly how and where you can officially watch the film, so stay tuned for that. We'll also take you behind the scenes with a detailed look at the film's pre-production, post-production journey, the total budget, box office collection, and the filming process that brought this high-octane story to life. On top of that, we'll give you a full review of the movie, where we break down the story, explore key plot points, and give our take on how it all plays out on screen. You'll also hear about the cast lineup, how they performed in their roles, and what made their characters stand out. And of course, we'll dive into the music and technical departments, everything from the soundtrack to the cinematography that gives F1, the movie, its unique edge. This video is packed with exciting and entertaining details, so make sure you watch till the very end. If you haven't liked the video yet, go ahead and do that now, and don't forget to subscribe for more awesome content. Let's get started the video. F1. Marketed as F1, the movie is a 2025 American sports drama film starring Brad Pitt as a racing driver who returns to Formula One F1 after a 30-year absence to save his former teammates' underdog team, Expensify APX GP, from collapse. Damson Idris, Kerry Condon, Tobias Menzies, and Javier Bardem also star. The film was directed by Joseph Kosinski from a screenplay by Aaron Kruger and a story written by the two and produced by Jerry Bruckheimer. All three previously worked together on Top Gun: Maverick 2022. The FIA, the governing body of F1, collaborated in the production. Racing sequences were adapted from footage of the real 2023 and 2024 World Championships with real-life F1 teams and drivers appearing throughout, including Lewis Hamilton C., who was also a producer. F1 premiered at Radio City Music Hall in New York City on June 16, 2025, and was released in the United States by Warner Bros. Pictures on June 27. The film received positive reviews from critics and has grossed $162 million worldwide against a $200 to $300 million budget. Movie plot. Aging American racing driver and former Formula One F1 prodigy Sonny Hayes lives nomadically as a racer for hire. Although he raced for Lotus in the 1990s, severe injuries from a crash at the Spanish Grand Prix in 1993 ended his F1 career. He subsequently became a gambling addict and lost 3 marriages. After winning the 24 Hours of Daytona, his former Lotus teammate Ruben Cervantes, who owns the Expensify APX GP F1 team, offers him a test drive to fill their spare seat. Ruben discloses that his investors will sell the team unless APX GP, last in the World Constructors' Championship, wins one of the 9 remaining Grands Prix that year. Sonny reluctantly agrees after Ruben tells him victory will make him the best in the world. At the Silverstone test, Sonny meets team principal Casper Smolinski, technical director Kate McKenna, and ambitious British rookie Joshua Pierce, who reveals 7 drivers turned down the opportunity. Joshua remains arrogant, yet worries the potential sale will result in his replacement, believing he must trounce his teammates to impress the investors. During his test, Sonny struggles with modern F1 machinery, but immediately identifies AP's GP's weaknesses. He pushes the limit and crashes, but Casper recognizes his skill and signs him. Sonny returns at the British Grand Prix where slow pit stops demote the APX GP drivers to last. After a promising start, Sonny ignores team orders to let Joshua by and they collide. In Hungary, Sonny mends his relationship with Joshua by exploiting F1 rules by colliding with other drivers to force safety cars. He helps Joshua catch the midfield and score APX GP's maiden points finish. Joshua adopts Sonny's old-school training methods while Sonny emulates his simulator work and persuades Kate to redesign the car for combat. During the rain-affected Italian Grand Prix, Sonny encourages Joshua to remain on slick tires, which risks aquaplaning but vaults Joshua too. Second, Joshua ignores Sonny's advice to wait for a straight before attempting to overtake Max Verstappen. He hits a curb at Cava Parabolica and his car is engulfed in flames after flying over the barrier. Sonny rescues him from the fire and Joshua misses 3 races. 1. While Sonny claims consistent points. Joshua, blaming Sonny for his crash, resolves to defeat him when he returns. In his comeback race, the Belgian Grand Prix, Joshua's aggressive driving causes a collision with Sonny, forcing him out of the race and infuriating him. Kate arranges a poker game where the winner gets favorable treatment at the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Joshua wins, but after he leaves, Sonny reveals he intentionally folded with a winning hand. Impressed, Kate courts Sonny, and they spend the night together. Ruben interrupts them to announce an anonymous tip claimed Kate manufactured upgrades illegally. Kate denies wrongdoing, but the FIA demand the upgrades removal. During the race, Sonny gets road rage and crashes. As Sonny recovers, Ruben learns his 1993 injuries permanently impaired him and fires him for his safety. Board member Peter Banning reveals to Sonny that he orchestrated his signing and the complaint so he could fire Ruben and sell APXGP, offering to promote him to team principal if the sale goes through. Before the season-ending Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, Joshua commits to being more responsible and disciplined, admitting his crash was not Sonny's fault. Sonny persuades Ruben into letting him race and declines Peter's offer. The FIA exonerates Kate, allowing APXGP to restore her upgrades. During the race, Joshua takes the lead by remaining on worn tires, but is overtaken by Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc. An opportune red flag is shown after a struggling Sonny in fourth collides with George Russell, allowing both APXGP drivers to restart on fresher tires. After passing Charles, Sonny sacrifices his chance at victory by forcing Lewis to block his overtake instead of Joshua's. However, Lewis and Joshua collide on the final lap, clearing the way for Sonny's maiden victory and blocking the sale. Sonny and Ruben rejoice on the podium, exclaiming, "We are the best in the world." Toto Wolff offers Joshua a seat at Mercedes, but Joshua declines. Sonny and Kate confirm their relationship. Joshua congratulates Sonny, who returns to his nomadic lifestyle, competing in the Baja 1000. Brad Pitt as Sonny Hayes, a nomadic racer for hire and former 1990s Formula 1 driver for Lotus, who is recruited to join the APXGP F1 team. Damson Idris as Joshua Pierce, a hotshot rookie who drives for APXGP, becoming Sonny's teammate and main rival. Kerry Condon as Kate McKenna, the APXGP technical director. Javier Bardem as Ruben Cervantes, the APXGP team owner, Sonny's friend, and his former Lotus teammate. Tobias Menzies as Peter Banning, an APXGP board member. Kim Bodnia as Kasper Smolinski, the APXGP team principal. Sarah Niles as Bernarde Pierce, Joshua's mother. Wilmer America as Hugh Nickleby, Sonny's apps race engineer. Joseph Balderrama as Rico Feijó, Joshua's APXGP race engineer. Abdul Salis as Dodge Duh, the APXGP chief mechanic. Callie Cook as Jod, an APXGP pit stop tire gunner. Samson Coe as Cashman, Joshua's cousin and manager. Simon Coons as Don Cavendish, a broadcaster during the F1 races that Sonny participated. Shea Wiggum as Chip Hart, owner of Chip Hart Racing, for whom Sonny drives the 24 Hours of Daytona. Lane Harper as Press. Luciano Baccia as Luca Cortis, the APSC reserve driver who resents Joshua. Simone Ashley was cast in an undisclosed role, but her appearance was cut to only a cameo credited as herself. Formula 1 drivers, personnel, and others. The film is based on the 2023 Formula 1 season and was filmed during both the 2023 and 2024 seasons. The following Formula 1 drivers appear in the film. Alexander Albon of Thailand, driver for Williams. Fernando Alonso, two-time World Drivers' Champion of Spain, driver for Aston Martin. Oliver Mann of the United Kingdom, driver for Ferrari and Jose Volateribes of Finland, driver for Alfa Romeo. Franco Colapinto of Argentina, driver for Williams. Mike of the Netherlands, driver for Alfor. Jack Doohan of Australia, driver for Alput. Pierre Gasly of France, driver for Alput. Guan Yu of China, driver for Alfa Romeo. Lewis Hamilton, 7-time World Drivers' Champion of the United Kingdom, driver for Mercedes. Nico Hülkenberg of Germany, driver for Hose. Liam Lawson of New Zealand, driver for Alpha Tower. Charles Leclerc of Monaco, driver for Ferrari. Kevin Magnussen of Denmark, driver for Hose. Lando Norris of the United Kingdom, driver for McLaren. Esteban Ocon of France, driver for Alput. Sergio Perez of Mexico, driver for Red Bull Racing. Oscar Piastri of Australia, driver for McLaren. Daniel Ricciardo of Australia, driver for AlphaTauri. George Russell of the United Kingdom, driver for Mercedes. Carlos Sainz, Mercedes. Carlos Sainz, Jr. of Spain, driver for Ferrari. Logan Sargent of the United States, driver for Williams. Lance Stroll of Canada, driver for Aston Martin. Yuki Tsunoda of Japan, driver for Alpha. Max Verstappen, 2-time and world drivers. Champion of the Netherlands, driver for Red Bull Racing. Formula One personnel that appear in the film include Stefano, Dominican CEO of the Formula One Group, Zak Brown, CEO of McLaren, Christian, her team principal and CEO of Red Bull Racing, Gunter Steiner, team principal. Of Hose, Lawrence Stroll, owner of Aston Martin and father of Lance Stroll. Frederick Vassar, team principal of Ferrari. James Vowles, team principal of Williams. Toto Wolff, team principal, CEO, and co-owner of Mercedes. Sports F1 commentators Martin Brundle and David Croft provide commentary for races depicted in the film. Lee Diffie provides commentary for the 24 Hours of Daytona scene. Cameo appearances include Porsche factory driver Patrick Long, 20, motorsport presenter Will Buxton and Dutch DJ Tiesto. Production. On December 3, 2021, a bidding war commenced for an untitled film starring Brad Pitt with producer Jerry Bruckheimer, director Joseph Kosinski, and screenwriter Aaron Kruger, who previously worked on Top Gun Maverick. 2022, on board in their respective roles. Sources said F1 driver Lewis Hamilton was also involved in the film. Studios involved in the bidding were Paramount Pictures, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, Sony Pictures, Universal Pictures, and Walt Disney Pictures, and streaming platforms Netflix, Apple, and Amazon. Pitt was paid $30 million for his involvement. In November 2022, Claudio Miranda announced he would be the film's cinematographer. In April 2023, Damson Idris was hired after a lengthy casting process which included a short list of actors driving the car in January 2023. Kerry Condon and Tobias Menzies would join the cast in the following months. Sarah Niles and Simone Ashley also joined the cast. However, in June 2025, Kosinski revealed that Ashley's role had been cut from the film. On July 5, 2024, the title F1 was announced. Teaser trailer premiered before the 2024 British Grand Prix. Kruger received sole credit for the film screenplay along with story credit with Kosinski, Jez Butterworth, Carrera Smith, Aaron Sorsen, and Christopher Storr earned off-screen additional literary material credit. In May 2024, Pucks Matthew Bologna reported the film's budget to be $300 million. Bruckheimer and Kosinski disputed the claim. The former cited rebates and sponsorships as lowering the budget, and the latter said, "I've never had an experience where they were off by this much on a film. I'm not sure where that number came from." In 2025, ahead of the film's theatrical release, some industry sources reported the film's budget to be $200 million, though others still claimed the $300 million figure. Release. In June 2022, Apple acquired distribution rights in a package deal worth $30 to $140 million before above The line compensation. In June 2024, Warner Bros. Pictures acquired the theatrical, home entertainment, and digital purchase distribution rights from Apple. Apple retains SVOD rights, and the film will become available on Apple TV Plus at a later date. The film had an early IMAX screening on June 23, 2025. That the film was released in the IMAX format internationally on June 25, 2025, and was released domestically on June 27, 2025. Private screening was held in Monaco during the Cannes Film Festival for the drivers of the 2025 season. The film had its world premiere on June 16, 2025 at the Radio City Music Hall in New York City with the cast and F1 drivers in attendance. The European premiere was held on June 23 at Empire Leicester Square in London. F1 chartered a Qatar Airways flight for the drivers and team principals from Montreal to New York to attend the premiere after the Canadian Grand Prix. F1 the movie review. Heading into F1, a high-octane rise from the Ashes star vehicle, Brad Pitt is clearly considering his image. Lately, the actor has inspired more headlines about his tumultuous divorce from Angelina Jolie, spurred by a reportedly drunken domestic assault on a 2016 plane trip than for his movies. In his most recent works, Wolves and Babylon, Pitt has portrayed talented, weathered men whose stars' down mortality could reflect the actor's own anxiety about his position in an industry searching for younger, squeaky clean faces to take his place. F1 ratchets up these worries. Instead of playing a man dutifully conceding his time, Pitt portrays Sonny Hayes, a driver whose hopes of making one last run are rekindled when he's recruited by his former rival Ruben Cervantes, Javier Bardem. With most of the racing season finished, Ruben's ramshackle APX GP racing team hasn't earned a point because they're talented. But conceited young driver Joshua Pierce Damson Idris lacks the experience necessary to grind out wins. Even worse, they're garbage cars designed by their technical director Kate McKenna, Kerry Condon, can't compete with the likes of Ferrari and McLaren. Ruben hopes Sonny can shape up AP's GP and Joshua enough to eke out one win out of the team's final 9 races, thereby holding off squeamish investors like the smarmy Peter Banning, Tobias Menzies from taking away Ruben's ownership for F1. Pitt teams with Top Gun Maverick director Joseph Kosinski. It's a smart pairing for Pitt, who surely hoped Kosinski could strike the same balance he did for Tom Cruise by crafting an enthralling adventure about an aging former hot shot tasked with mentoring the next generation. Kosinski and Pitt only find a modicum of the same success. While F1 is certainly an expertly crafted crowd pleaser, Pitt can't match Cruise's enviable ability to conjoin his star persona with the emotions of the movie. Instead, the rarely transportative F1 is all cold and machine-like. F1 features neither the poetry of Lee H. Katzen's Lummans, nor the existentialism of Tony Scott's Days of Thunder, nor the vulnerable masculinity of James Mangold's Ford v Ferrari. This is a loud, muscular movie about mentorship and stardom that hews closer to Any Given Sunday, Any Given Speedway, which has similar things to say about what makes a modern celebrity. Kaczynski's film begins with a flickering memory of a brutal crash whose images are interrupted by the fantasy of crushing ocean waves. The recollection belongs to Sonny, who's catching some shut-eye in his van before hopping back in his car. It's the 24 hours of Daytona, and Sonny has the midnight shift. When he awakens, he chows down some PB&J sandwiches, dunks his face in ice water, and cranks some pull-ups before speeding through a barrage of cars set to a needle drop of Whole Lot of Love. This invigorating opening scene sets the stage for a movie that unfortunately never really slows down. The film, in fact, increases its speed. We zoom through Ruben's plea for Sonny to join his team. Then watch Sonny partake in a high-stakes trial run at APX GP's London track. And then we skip through Sonny and Joshua's disastrous run at the Spanish Grand Prix. Don't get me wrong, our immediate immersion in this speedy world is quite thrilling. But we can see the turns Sonny will take from a mile away, which slows our desire to fully embrace him. Like any given Sunday, the drama in F1 is predicated on a strained relationship shared by the older white savvy veteran Sonny and the black self-absorbed talent Joshua. As you can guess, Sonny is the total opposite of Joshua. A former phenom who blew his shot in a fiery wreck that damaged his back 30 years ago. Sonny doesn't drive for the money. He bounces from small dirt tracks to big-time speedways with the aim of retaining an ineffable love of driving. Joshua, on the other hand, is more interested in his social engagement and follower count than winning and losing. He isn't interested in uplifting his team. He wants to help himself by racing well enough to jump ship to a place that'll grant him more money, exposure, and sponsorships. An easygoing Pitt and a bewitching Idris are enough of a megawatt pairing. They smooth over the inherently bumpy dynamics of the older white hero, essentially putting his black counterpart in his place. When Sonny challenges Joshua to forget about the outside noise in favor of the craft, you can sense Pitt both arguing for an era of stardom predating social media, and for his own relevance amid a shifting Hollywood landscape. It's a double-edged appeal that engenders sympathy from an audition that holds Pitt dear and holds Sonny back from being anything but a symbol of the old school. Consequently, Sonny navigates the movie mostly unchallenged. He wins the unfailing support of a dysfunctional Pitt crew and crafts them into a fast and efficient team. Though Sonny does flirt with Kate, Condon makes a meal out of this one-dimensional character. He and the camera are surprisingly chaste. The film is also wrestled away from Joshua. If, like any given Sunday, Kosinski and screenwriter Aaron Kruger, Top Gun Maverick, want F1 to become a passing of the torch from one generation to the next. Still, this film doesn't easily lend itself to that interpretation. Pitt isn't ready to anoint a successor. Instead, this restless film's ending plays like the Defiant One's, wherein the black character's dreams are displaced in favor of his white counterpart. The shaky aims of F1, however, don't distract from the sublime excitement the racing provides. Hans Zimmer's dynamic score, a churning and sculpted piece of music, not only matches Stephen Merian's elegant editing. The music is also wonderfully juxtaposed by cinematographer Claudio Miranda's frenetic lens. We jostle within the car and throttle around tight curves. Sometimes the sequences match Days of Thunder. Jerry Bruckheimer is also a producer here, particularly when Sonny angles to go high. At other points, like when APXGP buys into Sonny's combative racing style, F1 becomes its own snarling beast with little grounding in reality. Seriously, what's Sonny's strategy again, but is entertaining? Nonetheless, this film doesn't rumble through its 156-minute runtime. It flies by. And though F1 has little to say about the sport's past, present, or future, the propulsive ride at Engineers isn't a wasted diversion. With that amused cowpoke face of his squashed into his safety helmet, making his 60-something cherubic chops bulge in towards his nose, Brad Pitt gets behind the wheel in this outrageously cheesy but fiercely and extravagantly shot Formula One melodrama. Along with a lot of enjoyable heulam about the old guy mentoring the rookie Hotad, a plot it broadly shares with Pixar's 2006 adventure Cars, F1. The movie gives you the corporate sheen real-life race footage with Brad as the star in an unreasonably priced car. The tech fetish of the cars themselves almost making you forget how amazingly ugly they are, with brand names speckling every square inch of every surface. The simulation graphics writ large and the bizarre occult spectacle of motor racing itself. This is a movie which, like Barbie, has been licensed by the brand, with Lewis Hamilton credited as a producer. He gets a stately walk-on and plenty of big names are glimpsed. At one stage, Brad notices Max Verstappen out there on the track. "Damn, he's good," he mutters. Oh sure, yes, Max Verstappen is good, but is he a reckless, intuitive risk-taker and old-school motor romantic who might get himself killed chasing some undefinable something out there on the burning, shimmering tarmac? We may never know. Pitt plays Sonny Hayes, a super cool driver who lost his way after a near-fatal crash 30 years ago. got himself back together after a stint in the wilderness as a professional gambler and New York City taxi driver. No flashbacks to that, sadly. And now, freelances as a race car ombre, drifting around in his camper van, signing up for races where he can, wowing the young kids with his crazy attack strategies and WY cunning. His old driving buddy, Ruben, Javier Bardem, now an owner, is in desperate need of some special old-school magic to revivify his failing team and offers Sonny a slot to the nervous disapproval of pointy-headed board member and duplicitous creep banning, Tobias Menzies, and the open disdain of mercurial young driving star Joshua Pierce, Damson Idris, who refers to him as old man. Is Sonny going to exasperate and yet excite Ruben by breaking all the rules? Rangy, good-humored Sonny soon works his cheeky magic with everyone, especially the technical director Kate McKenna. This is a really good performance from Kerry Condon, who stamps hard on the relatability pedal and without whom Brad Pitt and his finite range of expressions might have been floundering. And so we follow Sonny and the team as they compete all over the world from London to Abu Dhabi. Each event prefaced with video game-style graphics of the track and plenty of huge sans serif titles, saying things like Lap 14. The arcana of racing is lovingly reproduced, particularly the to me baffling convention of the team meeting where everyone is wearing headphones and headset mics. Can they not hear each other without them? Don't other people at equally large conference tables manage without all this? Motor racing is a sport in which constituent team members seem to be competing against each other as much as against the opposition, and so it ought to be an ideal subject for a movie treatment. There's a fair bit of macho silliness here, but the panache with which director Joseph Kosinski puts it together is very entertaining. Condon is a vital fuel ingredient, and to a F1 non-believer like me, the result is surreal and spectacular. Brad Pitt's character in F1, Sonny Hayes, has had a tough time. As shown in Deeged and Bigwig flashbacks, he used to be the golden boy of Formula One, but he was in a horrific crash 30 years ago that tore his life to pieces. He lost his career. He went on to have several failed marriages and quite a few ill-advised tattoos. And now he trundles from one less than glamorous racing event to another in his camper van when he isn't gambling or driving a cab for money. Luckily for him, his old buddy Ruben, Javier Bardem, is in charge of a Formula One team that keeps losing. So he hands Sonny a plane ticket to England and begs him to compete at motor racing's top level once again. This, you might think, could be a tall order. Sonny could be a bit rusty, a bit out of touch with Formula One's latest developments. He might even have some fears and doubts relating to the traumatic crash that ruined his life. But no, one of the problems with F1, the slick and shiny new summer popcorn film from director Joseph Kosinski and the rest of the team behind Top Gun Maverick, excluding Tom Cruise, is that Sonny has made a full psychological and physical recovery before the opening scene. His flaws are fixed, his demons are dead, and now he has no weaknesses at all except the laid-back arrogance which is only to be expected of someone who looks like Brad Pitt. From the moment he moseys into Silverstone in his double denim and his Once Upon a Time in Hollywood shades, Sonny is supremely relaxed and confident, and he soon proves to be a tactical genius, an inspiring leader, a loyal team player, a gentlemanly charmer, and an innovative car designer. As well as the kind of irreverent dude who does card tricks during important meetings and doesn't care about trophies or money. The film's big question is why this superhero ever left Formula One in the first place. It's fun to hang out with such a charismatic rogue, of course, but it's hard to be emotionally involved when the hero's journey takes him all the way from great guy but slightly cocky to great guy but slightly less cocky. The biggest issue with F1, though, is not its insistence on showing its leading man in a flattering light, but its equivalent fawning attitude towards Formula One itself. Shot on real circuits with the full cooperation of the organizers and participants. Lewis Hamilton is credited as a producer. It's essentially a glossy corporate promotional film with so much distracting product placement that you're more likely to remember the brand names than the characters. There is no wisp of criticism or skepticism and no hint of anything exploitative or sleazy. Formula One fans may be pleased by the glimpses of their favorite drivers, but F1 is so intent on being positive about its milieu that none of these men is allowed to be a proper antagonist or even to say anything rude about Sonny. Nobody can misbehave and nothing terrible can happen to any of the characters, so there is no tension to speak of. The story simply hops around the world, ticking off every Grand Prix in a season. In the first of these, Reuben's team fails miserably. But as the weeks go by, well, if you scribble down what you guess the structure might be, you'd be absolutely correct. Except that your version might have some more high-stakes jeopardy than the actual film. It's not that F1 is poorly made. It's not a car crash, so to speak. As Top Gun Maverick demonstrated, Kosinski and his collaborators know how to shoot and edit terrific sequences focused on high-speed vehicles. Hans Zimmer, the composer, provides some epic synth anthems to slot in between the usual classic rock staples. Queen's We Will Rock You, Led Zeppelin's Whole Lot of Love, and the cast do their best to bring their two-dimensional characters to life. Kerry Condon, the Banshees of Inisherin, lights up with twinkling warmth as love interest Kate, the team's conveniently single and reasonably age-appropriate technical director. And Damson Idris balances youthful insecurity and swagger as Joshua Pierce, the rookie driver who sees Sonny as a rival than a mentor. But while Top Gun Maverick was a masterpiece that pulled viewers into events in and out of the cockpit, F1 is simply a competently assembled collection of underdog sports drama cliches. It never convinces you that its protagonists are human beings, and never persuades you that Reuben's team are more worthy of support than their competitors. I was more invested in the pod race in Star Wars: The Phantom Menace than any of the races here. Maybe it would have helped if the dialogue by Aaron Kruger hadn't been so rudimentary. When Joshua's manager warns him of the consequences of failing to win a trophy, for instance, he says, "You might lose your job." Let that sink in. When Sonny is chatting up Kate, he asks, "So, how does one get to be the first female technical director of an F1 team?" None of these placeholder lines is destined to be quoted in years to come, and the exposition trotted out by various reporters and commentators is even clunkier. Throughout every race, disembodied voices are heard saying things like, "This is actually an advantage for Hayes," and just 2 minutes to go until the race gets underway again. One of the worst examples of exposition in this or any other film goes as follows. "This is not where you want to be. Last place. Thanks for clearing that up here." These lines suggest that the filmmakers were fearful that they couldn't trust viewers to follow what was happening on the racetrack without some obvious verbal help, and that in turn suggests that making a film about a series of long races just wasn't a bright idea. Formula One enthusiasts may disagree, and they may be delighted that their beloved motorsport has been put on the big screen in such a laudatory fashion. Everyone else, this is not where you want to be. Other information about this film: there's a scene in F1 that I think counts as the movie's big RA speech. It's about how if everybody on the crew contributes a half-second at some point in the race, if they can all find just a fraction of a second here or there, that's the difference between last place and first. As far as sports movie speeches go, it's pretty good. But what I found so intriguing about it is that it perfectly describes the difference between a bad sports movie and a good one. It seems to be a lesson Joseph Kosinski, Brad Pitt, and the rest of the team behind F1 took to heart. As a sports movie following some pretty tried and true tactics, F1 ups its game at every stage of things. This won't win it any awards for originality, but it still adds up to a real win. I'm a sucker for sports movies. Unashamedly and unreservedly, I love an underdog defying the odds on a field, a court, a pitch, wherever. Even as it turns out on a racetrack, there's something comforting about their formula, which comes in subtly different flavors, of course. Inspirational, comedic, based on a true story, based on Super Bowl ads that team. Michael Jordan with Bugs Bunny. But ever since Rocky in 1976, any new entry, they genre gets a head start thanks to a blueprint that's honestly hard to mess up. F1 is definitely not a sports movie. That messes this up. Director Joseph Kosinski clearly has both hands on the wheel where the sports movie formula is concerned. The story he's concocted with Transformers vet Aaron Kruger follows an aging never-was race car driver as he tries to rescue his old pal's team and the cocky rookie driver who's got lessons to learn before he can realize his full potential. Throw in a romantic interest and feel free to stop me when you've heard all that before. But when I use the word formulaic here, it's not meant to be derogatory. Because here's the thing about a good formula. If it didn't yield good movies, people wouldn't use it over and over and over again. But it requires a steady and delicate hand. Use too much of one ingredient here or apply the wrong amount of heat there, and the whole thing can blow up in your face. On a technical level, F1 is impeccably put together. Kosinski and his frequent collaborator, Academy Award-winning cinematographer Claudio Miranda, put cameras in just all the places, picking up where they left off with Top Gun. Maverick F1 is filled with impossible angles and quick robotic pans that make us feel like we're at the mercy of these rocket ship machines. The major difference between these movies' depictions of speed and mechanical might is that there isn't a global television audience tuning in nearly every weekend, from mid-March to early December to watch fighter jets tool around. There's a deep cultural familiarity with what a Formula One race is supposed to look like on screen. F1. The movie gets that too. One shot puts you intimately and dangerously into the driver's seat, while the next feels broadcast-worthy. The editing does the same as well, thanks to Stephen Murian, another member of the pit crew with an Oscar in the garage. F1 is cut beautifully and peacefully in stretches, chaotically and nervously in others. There's one character who owes her entire struggling to keep up to coming through in the clutch story arc to the editing. That particular sports movie must-have is landed perfectly in the 3-second edit of a tire change. But that's behind the camera. In front of the camera, you can see the fruits of the reliable sports movie formula as well. The fun everybody had making this movie is both obvious and infectious. There's an ease and joy that shows up in even the tensest scenes. Everybody knows the score. It's like we've seen this movie before, so let's just enjoy ourselves. Pitt plays his character Sonny Hayes like the Don Quixote of driving, searching for the great prize that even he can't articulate and carrying F1 with the uncomplicated charm of one of Earth's last movie stars. Sonny approaches his assignment with what he describes as hard-earned wisdom and a directness that sometimes borders on disinterested. He's every bit the archetypal weary veteran, a Brad Pitt specialty at this point in his career. It's the type that won him his Oscar after all. If he'd endeavored to paint outside the lines too much, F1 would have been a weaker movie for it. The supporting cast is stacked with celebrated actors doing admirable work. Alongside Pitt, Javier Bardem is perfect as the friend who's in over his head and needs a Hail Mary. It's fair to mix this particular sports metaphor because F1 does it too. He's rooting for Sonny and we're rooting for him. It works great. Kerry Condon is charming as hell as technical director Kate McKenna, a tremendous foil for Sonny and Damson Idris as Joshua Pierce, the aforementioned arrogant young racer with a lot to learn from the grizzled old man. All the pieces that you'd expect are there. And again, plussing up the familiar is the best thing Kosinski and his crew have done with F1. They've built a supercharged vehicle that can outdo the competition on almost every level, give or take a 2.5 hour plus run time. While I can totally understand the instinct to include every frame of that in the driver's seat footage, by the time F1 made its final laps, I was starting to feel out of gas. This is where the film runs into the downside of a formula. For most of F1, the competition is internal with Sonny and Joshua battling themselves and each other. Their rivals on the circuit are all familiar faces and sponsors from the real world of Formula One. But as movie characters, they're as anonymous as the enemy countries in Top Gun and Maverick. As if to correct for this lack Of an antagonistic Ivan Drago to their Rocky, or Yankees to their Bad News Bears. Or East Germany to their Jamaican bobsled team, an adversarial element that's been hovering in the background plays an outsized importance in the final act. It's one extra thing that the formula demands, but that F1 just doesn't need. The climactic race also gets a little exposition heavy, going out of its way to establish the obscure rules. Maybe just semi-obscure. I'm not that into actual Formula One racing that bring a last gasp of hope to Sonny and Joshua's chances. That's not the case for the rest of F1. You don't have to be fluent in the sport to tell what's going on in the rest of the races. Each one brings a new obstacle which in turn gives rise to a new and character-building solution. It's a pattern that really works, escalating in all the right ways until Kaczynski goes to the well one too many times. But that's the formula for you, I suppose. It's a game of inches with sports movies, or in the case of F1 tenths of seconds. Kaczynski and his incredibly talented crew have all the pedigree to elevate a road-tested format. Brad Pitt and his co-stars are talented drivers sitting on top of an immaculately crafted race car, and all any of them need to do is hang on and not steer too far out of their lane. For 125 or so of its 156 minutes, F1 is every bit the experienced veteran. In its weaker moments, though, it reverts to brash rookie mode. Top Gun. Maverick's Joseph Kosinski assembles an all-star crew in front of and behind the camera for F1, and they craft a technical marvel of a movie. It's gorgeous and thrilling to look at, with top-notch editing backing up Brad Pitt's IMAX-consuming charisma. It's a faithful devote to the sports movie formula that's kept from greatness by a few too many unnecessary components and a finish line that maybe should have been closer than 2.5 hours away. But in spite of that, it's still a hell of a ride point. One of my earliest memories is leaping to my feet in a movie theater when Rocky Balboa knocked out Ivan Drago. It's the kind of moment, Cold War jingoism aside, you spend your whole movie-going life chasing. The thrill of being overtaken by a feeling so completely that you lose track of the fact that it's not really happening. I thought of that moment frequently while watching F1, which is out in theaters on Friday. Less because I was caught up myself and more because my attention kept getting diverted from the screen by the peripheral flash of my neighbor's fist pumping through the air every time Brad Pitt's character drove his car across the finish line. Pitt plays Sonny Hayes, once a rising star on the racing circuit whose career was derailed 4 decades by a catastrophic crash. It's doubtful anyone has given him much of a thought in the intervening years. Anyone at least other than his former teammate Ruben Javier Bardem, now a venture capitalist who owns his own Formula One team and is in need of a seasoned driver. Sonny wouldn't be anyone else's first choice. In fact, as it turns out, he's not even his old friend's. But Ruben's team is a wreck and he's on the verge of losing control of the operation unless the group can end the season with less than embarrassing results. So Sonny comes on board, joining a young driver, Joshua Damson Idris, who's better at acre-wing social media followers than he is steering through a tight corner, and a technical director, Kerry Condon, who hasn't managed to raise the team's race car design above the level of shitbox. The press smells a story, and some reporters even try to build up the arc of a triumphant comeback, but you can tell they're struggling to muster the requisite enthusiasm. As one headline about Sonny puts it, if you missed him, he's back. Have you missed Brad Pitt? If you've spent the past several years paying more attention to Pitt's personal life than his on-screen presence, maybe not. His divorce from Angelina Jolie has been accompanied by allegations of violent behavior and physical abuse, and several of their children have stopped using his last name. The FBI and the Los Angeles County Department of Children and Family Services both closed their investigations without filing charges. But as my colleague Scott G. Cole argued last year, the general public support for Pitt has never significantly wavered. His most recent starring role in a major theatrical release, 2022's Bullet Train, grossed over $200 million worldwide, and F1, which is backed by the combined might of Hollywood studio Warner Brothers, tech giant Apple, and a sport with a global audience of more than $800 million, is tracking toward a nine-figure opening weekend. Like Top Gun. Maverick, with which this movie shares a director Joseph Kosinski and co-writer Aaron Kruger. F1 is being sold on the strength of its star who stands alone in its key art, a long-sleeved shirt clinging to his still-chiseled torso. Pitt has been a movie star for so long it's almost impossible to imagine movies without him. And yet he has largely stayed away from the massive blockbusters that are the pillars of contemporary stardom. His biggest worldwide smash as a leading man was 2013's World War Z, and that came nearly a decade after his previous major run when Troy, Ocean's 12, and Mr. and Mrs. Smith were released in a little over a year. His highest-grossing movie is Deadpool 2, in which he appears for only a few seconds as a short-lived and largely invisible superhero called Vanisher. But even if Pitt shares some of the credit with Leonardo DiCaprio and Quentin Tarantino, the runaway success of 2019's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was proof he can still draw crowds and make them gasp when he takes off his shirt. Another formative movie-going memory, feeling the air whoosh out of the theater when the then 27-year-old upstart appeared in Thelma and Louise. With a budget estimated somewhere between $200 million and $300 million. F1 is Pitt's biggest movie ever and his biggest swing in decades. And if he doesn't hit it out of the park, it's partly because, like his character in Moneyball, he's learned that aiming for the fences isn't the only way to win the game. Sonny Hayes' strength as a driver isn't his speed so much as his strategy and his willingness to bend the rules as far as they can go. When the members of Rubin's team first meet their new driver, they're practically incredulous, that old thing. So, Sonny makes them a wager that on his very first time behind the wheel of the team's car, he can come within a second of their young hot shot's lap time. And he does right before he takes a turn too fast and crashes into a wall. In races, he smashes into other cars and deliberately spins out in gravel traps. So the track gets littered with debris. Times his exits from the pit lane to box out the leading drivers and generally draws on the tactics he has learned in 30 years of racing as a hired gun on hard scrabble circuits. If you're not familiar with the sport, it seems to involve a lot of business about tires. In fact, though the movie's marketing strategies overlap, Pitt feels less like Tom Cruise and Maverick than he does Cruise's Color of Money co-star Paul Newman, even if 61 now doesn't look like 61 did in 1986. Some telltale stiffness around the eyes notwithstanding, Pitt largely bears the marks of his age, and they're part of his appeal. When he takes his shirt off in F1, the camera lovingly slides up his back, but as it does, it takes in a fading tapestry of tattoos and long-healed scars. When Rubin is wooing Sonny to join the team, he brings along an old magazine featuring the two of them on the cover and points to Sonny's younger self, asking, "What would that guy do?" Sonny takes a look at his glowing young skin, his poof of teen idle hair, and responds, "Join a boy band." Pitt can mock his absurdly good-looking younger self in part because he knows he's got something more valuable now. The kind of magnetism that mere attractiveness can't compete with. Idris flashes a dazzling smile for the racing press, and Bardem looks spectacular in his millionaire suits. But Pitt is the one you want to see strolling down the racing track on a long lens, buffeted by heat haze as if your eyes might be playing tricks on you. Inevitably and tiresomely, Condon's hard-nosed engineer eventually falls into bed with Pitt's cocky veteran, despite her protestations that she's not going to fall for his line. And truth be told, it's a little hard to swallow this ex-NASA scientist swooning like a schoolgirl, clasping Sonny's arm as if he's shielding her from a storm. But what saves their relationship is that Condon plays Kate not as a woman who's bowled over by an older man's attraction to her, but as someone who's amazed at how much she feels for him. He hasn't discovered her. He has helped her rediscover a part of herself. And that's what movie stars do. Sure, we swoon after them. We want to be them or kiss them or both. But what they do better than anyone else is connect us to a kind of pure emotion we rarely experience in life. A flash of love or wonder or simple thrills untroubled by errant thoughts or extraneous concerns. They usher us into a world where intimate Connections happen at a glance, and challenges are vanquished with a well-timed punch or a surge at the finish line. And those resolutions feel as if they'll last forever. Outside, things are more complicated, meaner, uglier. But inside, as long as we stay by their side, those feelings never have to end. More detail. Released under the dignified tagline of sports drama, Apple's F1 is at best a camp classic in the making. Only Mystery Science Theater 3000 could do sardonic justice to this torrent of macho movie cliches patched together by an old hack producer Jerry Bruckheimer, Top Gun, who never lost money underestimating the intelligence of the general public, and younger hack director Joseph Kosinski, Top Gun, Maverick. The result is a silly male bonding spectacle on a lavish scale. Of course, there's a certain fascination in watching rivers of money go by, and everything in F1 looks absurdly expensive and inflated. You could house villages in the enormous hotel rooms in various exotic settings where the members of a failing Formula One racing team are staying. Brad Pitt, playing Sonny Hayes, the Maverick itinerant driver for hire brought in to salvage that team, has had so much work done on his face that alone must have been a startling line item in the movie's budget, which is rumored to be as high as $300 million. It's Apple's biggest film yet. They've now officially got a hit on their hands with a $140 million opening weekend. A ludicrous hit, but when have Hollywood types ever minded that? Plus, it's such an advantage to make a movie that functions as a very long commercial for Apple's AirPods Max, which are glued to Pitt's ears for much of the film's running time. Pitt is an old hand at this conventional heroic stuff and seems unabashed by grinning with confidence, squinting handsomely in flattering light and playing scenes in which he refuses to go by the book. As all the character actors around him register amazement at his high T levels, Pitt has to walk repeatedly into extreme long shots as a crowd stands in the foreground watching his legendary gunslinger approach in silent awe like a bunch of gullible townspeople in a traditional Western. He does it with the aplomb of one who's been a star since Thelma and Louise rocketed him to fame back in 1991. In F1, there's a lot of that kind of poaching from the Western genre. Sonny Hayes, for example, gets through an entire press conference answering urgent sports reporter questions with nothing but Gary Cooper's famously laconic replies from his now ancient Western hero roles. Yep, and nope. Because the thing is, it's possible to do genre films really well, especially when you've got all the money in the world and can afford a lot of great talent. There are stylish ways of embracing formulaic artifice and making it fresh again. Conventions can always be reworked to make them meaningful for a new generation. But clearly nobody involved with F1 is too worried about that. They know its big dumb posturing will sell. Perhaps most unforgivably, F1 is 2 hours and 36 minutes long, which is terrific for car racing enthusiasts. Guess they must be ecstatic every time the two main characters suit up and pull on their helmets and climb into their race cars yet again and go vroom vroom in a circle at considerable length. The governing body of Formula One racing, the FIA, collaborated with the filmmakers during production, and many drivers and other F1 personnel appear in the movie, and presumably add to the authenticity of the race scenes. Old race car films like Le Mans 1971 with Steve McQueen, winning 1969 with Paul Newman, and Grand Prix 1968 with James Garner, Yves Montand, and Toshiro Mifune used to pull in a lot of real-life top drivers and resources from the world of racing too, with spectacular fast-cut footage as the biggest audience draw other than the movie stars. F1 is no different, with plenty of tension built into the kinetic shooting and editing of the races and the inevitability of the lurid car crashes built into the narrative, which is probably all that's needed to make the film a summertime smash. Some sense of it being the best racing film ever made. A pathetically low bar to set, but one that excites people anyway. If you can feel yourself getting dumber just by watching F1, that's part of the appeal to helping you achieve the full sweaty stupor of the season. F1, the movie, starts ominously enough with the black Warner Brothers logo, which suggests it's going to be the Dark Knight Rises of sports movies. But although it never really relaxes into the fun 60s style Paul Newman picture it might have been, F1 never takes itself too seriously. You might go to it with solemn images in mind of the old-school Maverick driver classics Grand Prix 1966 and Le Mans 1971, which is a vibe director Joseph Kosinski does prize highly, and a role that fits Brad Pitt quite snugly. But there's an amiable surrogate family movie just vrooming to get out. And the strange thing is that the recent release it more strongly resembles down to its weird squishy logo is The Last Mission Impossible, since although it's definitely about the American way of winning, the emphasis is as much on high-tech teamwork as it is on traditional star wattage. There's a significant overlap with Once Upon a Time's Cliff Booth in Sunny Hayes, the driver pit place. Unlike the recent iMovie, his age is mentioned, and mentioned a lot, never in an admiring way. In fact, we start the movie at the 24 Hours of Daytona race, an endurance event that he is clearly doing for the money. His backstory involves a terrible crash at the Spanish Grand Prix in his 30s that still gives him nightmares, and explains the film's cryptic opening in which calming ocean waves are interpolated with gritty video images of a high-speed race. Sunny, we learn, is the coulda been that never was. His rock and roll bona fide is confirmed when Kosinski drops Led Zeppelin's Whole Lot of Love onto the soundtrack, making great use of its 8-tonal midsection. Everything is laid out here, from Sunny's contempt for authority to his capacity for superstition. He gomlas before every race. He pockets a playing card, sight unseen. And whenever he wins, he refuses to handle the cup. It's bad luck, he believes. But like the gangster who's out of the game, his past comes calling. When a face from the past shows up while he's doing his laundry. Ruben Cervantes. Javier Bardem is an old adversary who now runs Apex GP and is $350 million in the hole. I need a new driver, he says, flashing an old magazine cover touting their young selves as the rising stars of F1. Sunny says no, but Cervantes won't hear it. What would he want you to do? Asks Cervantes, pointing to Sunny's younger, blonder self. Join a boy band? He shrugs. Inevitably, Sunny does join the team led by star driver Joshua Pierce Damson Idris, who greets Sunny with horror and prompts a lot of talk. Kosinski, the same guy who turned Top Gun Maverick into an actual shot of adrenaline, F1 is slick and confident. It embraces the old-school sports movie rhythm without apology. You can feel the confidence coming off every scene. This is a movie that knows the road it is on and is fully committed to driving it better than anyone else. The plot, yes, we've heard parts of it before. Brad Pitt plays Sunny Hayes, a veteran driver who never quite made it big and now finds himself pulled back into the game to mentor a fast and reckless rookie named Joshua Pierce, played by Damson Idris. There is also a struggling race team, a technical wizard who talks like she does her job in her sleep, and of course, the big race looming in the final act. It is classic sports movie structure, but structure is not the problem. The issue is usually how well the story wears it. In this case, it wears it like a tailored, fireproof suit. The best way I can describe F1 is this. It is the racing movie version of a band playing the greatest hits, but doing it with such style and power that you forget you have heard the songs before. And speaking of power, the film has Hans Zimmer's score pushing it like a jet engine. Combine that with some absolute banger classic rock tracks, and it becomes very clear this movie wants to be seen and heard loud. This film, directed by Joseph Kosinski, screenplay by Aaron Kruger. By Joseph Kosinski. Aaron Kruger. Produced by Jerry Bruckheimer, Joseph Kosinski, Lewis Hamilton, Brad Pitt, Dee Gardner, Jeremy Kleiner, Chatham. Starring Brad Pitt, Damson Idris, Kerry Condon, Tobias Menzies, Javier Bardem. Cinematography, Claudio Miranda. Edited by Stephen Mayan. Music by Hans Zimmer. Production companies: Apple Studios, Jerry Bruckheimer Films, Plan B Entertainment, Monolith Pictures, Dawn Apollo Films. Distributed by Apple. Original Films, Warner Brothers Pictures. Release dates June 16, 2025. In Radio City, June 27, 2025 in United States. Running time, 156 minutes. United States language English budget, $200 to $300 million. Box office, $161.9 million. So friends, this is the detailed review of the film F1 the movie and some interesting facts about this film. Hope you like this video. Do give our video a like and subscribe to our channel to watch more such interesting videos. Like, share and subscribe.